Hello guys, welcome back to Audible Odyssey. So let's step into a world of immersive storytelling where gripping tales of mystery, horror and adventure come to life. Each narration is crafted to pull you into the heart of the story, creating an unforgettable audio experience. From spine-tingling horrors to timeless classics, Audible Odyssey Adventures is your gateway to thrilling journeys beyond imagination. Subscribe now, and let the stories take you to places you've never dreamed of. Audible Odyssey Presents. There's a lot of darkness in this world. That's a lowercase d dark, mind you. There's also the capital D kind, but that's another kind of thing altogether. Now some people will tell you that it's the big darkness that you got to watch out for, and, in some ways, they are right. Could have agreed with them on that a long time before a good friend of mine went and showed me just how far down the crazy rabbit hole goes demon vampires, all of that monster madness garbage. Turns out it ain't quite as much malady as your rational mind would like you to believe. That enormous darkness, well, that's biblical end of the world stuff. But the thing about that is it's obvious. You see, that kind of thing any number of people stand up to fight it. It's basic human survival. It's why there's so many damn zombie uprising fantasies out there. Everyone wants to grab their shotgun and go and get them some sweet hot action. Damn circle jerk is what it is, and that's why there ain't no way in hell the world will ever end that way. We'd no do that if we just pay attention. Society and culture's got any number of differences to the little darkness being the one to get you. The world won't end in a bang but a whimper. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and my personal favorite, the devil's in the details. This is a story about those details and that devil. If you're looking for some kind of action movie blockbuster finish, I'd ask you to get off now. See you there won't be any of that. Plenty of other places you can go for all the vicarious thrills and heroics you could ever want. I'd encourage you to do so. All you're going to do is just make my point. For me, big evil is exciting and stimulates the imagination, but people can't be bothered with a little one. It's why it's so damn insidious. For anyone still here, let's set the stage. A few years back, I was in a pretty bad way. My only boy, Billy, had been killed on his way home from football practice by a junkie looking to score a quick score. I live outside of London and such things still aren't unheard of, though they're a lot less common nowadays. Thank God. Anyway, my boyfriend died in his and I ended up splitting up soon after. Due to the stress, I managed to get myself fired from my job, and most of my days were spent either crawling out of the bottom of a bottle or searching around seeing if I could get a line on his killer. Most of the time both. Well, one day I found the bastard punk was crashed at a flop house, high out of his mind, sprawled on a mattress stained with dirt and God knows what else. I walked up to my boy's killer and thought him. He was young, only a few years older than Billy, probably his jaw covered by a little scraggly yellow beard. He was wearing this stupid knit cap with a bunch of stripes. That's how I knew for sure I had the right guy. That cap was the only detail the one witness of my boy's murder could remember. I grabbed the filthy pillow lying next to him and set it on top of his glazed face and held it there to finish the deed. I sat there for what felt like forever but was probably only a minute or two. It's not like we were the only people in the room. All around me were a bunch of other junkies, crashed in various stages of mess up, but at the same time it was just him and me. My hand was shaking from fear and rage and adrenaline, and there was this little kernel of blackness somewhere inside my chest just screaming at me to keep the pillow there, and somehow, some way I stumbled out of that cracked house feeling like a balloon that's had all of its hair let out, just totally drained. It ain't that I never killed before, got plenty of that and a handful of tours to Iraq, but this would have been the first time I committed murder. And brother, if you don't think there's a difference, then you need to spend more time thinking on it. So by the grace of God, or just luck, I managed to save my soul from the devil for another day. The experience managed to scare me straight. The thought of what I'd almost done and what my life had nearly turned into was enough to make me want to puke. I vowed there and then I was going to make a change. Fast forward about 12 months. Ever so gradually I'd managed to pull my life out of the gutter. I Cut back significantly on the drinking and thought about going to meetings in the basement of the local church, but ultimately decided against it. I figured I had it under control and didn't really feel like sharing my story just yet. Things just kept getting better, and after a few months I even got a job as a security guard for this holy toy high school down the main line. About that time's when Johnny gave me a call. I was good friends with a guy named Jack, or at least had been back in the day. We broke our teeth in the army together, went through basics in our first deployment in the same unit. Thick as thieves. We've been out of touch for the better part of a decade, but more just because our lives had grown apart than there been any kind of falling out. We got assigned to different stations. Jack got out, I stayed in life. It happens you get me. Johnny was Jack's older brother. I'd met him a few times, enough that if I ran into him I'd be sure to wave him down, but what were the odds of that? Well, pretty good. It turned out Johnny was in London town for some kind of conference. Jack knew I lived in the area and told his brother to check on me on account of Billy. Johnny called and told me we should go grab a drink. I was unenthusiastic, seeing I tended to do my drinking alone as I didn't need anyone egging me on, but what was I going to do? I didn't feel like insulting my friend's brother even if we hadn't exactly talked for a few years. I told him I had second shift so it might be a little late, but he said no problem, he'd go ahead and get started without me. I finally rolled up to the hotel on my old motorcycle. At about 12:30, Johnny was sitting in the lobby and he stood up when he saw me walking through the door. "God, how you been, mate?" "Pass him well, Johnny. How's your brother?" "Good, good." Say, he glanced over at a well-dressed man sitting next to him. "Let me introduce you to Bernard." Bernard was the living Webster definition of Eurotrash: fake tan, stupid short stubble beard, tailored German suit, speaking 3 languages, and could be a pretentious prat in all of them. You know the type. It turns out Johnny had just met Bernard earlier in the evening. The guy was Polish but working for a Swiss branch of Johnny's company. This conference was his first time in England and he was looking forward to getting absolutely messed up. Johnny asked if I'd mind if Bernard had come along for the ride, and grudgingly I said no problem. Now it was midnight on a Wednesday or Thursday, I suppose, so we'd had to drive around a bit before we found somewhere we could get a beer. The name of the pub we ended up at was the Fireside. Though wild, I couldn't tell you if there wasn't anything like a fireplace inside. It was a total dive. I'd been in plenty like it in my army days, and just walking in I could tell we should probably think about heading back the way we came, but Johnny was insistent we wouldn't be able to find a better place, and Bernard figured it give him the real Brit experience he was hoping for. So that was settled. Johnny and Bernard were both already well on their way to a pretty solid headache the next morning from their pre-game at the hotel they picked up right where they'd left off, with Johnny asking the Pox pretending to be a bartender what kind of micro brews they had. She gave him this look that had curdled milk. The only other folks in the pub were a handful of locals shooting PO on the other side of the room. They were already eyeing us up. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck start to stand up, a feeling I was all too familiar from my time in the city. "Johnny, I seriously think we need to think about going." "Ah, come on, Gave, 1 drink is fine." I nodded at the barkeep and 3 lagers. She gave me something like a smile on the barracuda before setting 3 cloudy pint glasses in front of us, and so we settled in. Johnny and Bernard tried to explain to me exactly what it was their company employed them to do. Johnny told me how Tiffany was pregnant with their second and he was sure this one would be a boy. I sat there with my beer in front of me, occasionally taking a swallow as I tried to listen, but really my focus was still held by the 4 pool players shooting looks at us from across the room. I did some mental math, nodding along with the conversation. I figured I could take 2 of them sure, and Johnny could maybe handle 1, but Bernard couldn't punch his way out of a wet paper bag. I liked the odds. I started to interrupt Bernard, who was telling us all about his daily workout routine, when one of the locals finally decided to make his way over. He looked at Bernard. The smell of booze, giving away the fact he was well into it. From experience, I could tell he was looking for a fight. Bernard here is from Switzerland. Johnny said Bernard was slurring his words and corrected him, saying, he's from Poland, you don't say. Our new friend grinned maliciously, my wife's half Polish. Hey Toss, he turned to Johnny, why are you going to say he's Swiss? If he's a Pole, you can't go around disrespecting people like that. The booze had slowed Johnny's normally quick. I mean he works in Switzerland. No, it's all right, the tough was smiling with his teeth. I got you. Hey Bernard, what's it? You want to come back with me and have a cigarette? Bernard was on his slightly swaying feet immediately. Bernard buddy. I looked at him. I thought we needed to get going. You guys have a conference in the morning. He rolled his eyes and said, screw the conference, I'm going for a smoke. The local patted my shoulder. Yeah friend, we're just going for a smoke. It won't be a minute before I can say anything further. They were already out the back door. Johnny was back in his drink, already forgetting the whole thing. Johnny. I asked him how invested in his new buddy was. He shot me a quizzical look. I'm pretty sure he's about to get his ass kicked back and I'm of a mind to just walk out on him before they decide to take it out on us too. Johnny just laughed at me. Gable, really these guys are harmless. No, they really ain't, Johnny. I'm going to tell you again, we need to leave, now grab your stuff and let's get out of here. I'm just pulling my life together and the last thing I need is to get into pub fights. Let's go find a pay phone and call the cops to come and make sure Bernard walks out of here. Okay, we can do it anonymous, so if I'm wrong, even though I'm not, there won't be any harm done. Johnny gets mad, then a drunken kind of AG pisses off mate. Look, if you want to leave, that's fine, we can make our own way back to the hotel. I was just doing Jack a favor. Looking in on you anyway. Now come on, no damn it, I need this, another kid on the way. You know, the last time I got to go out seriously pissed off, I opened my mouth to say something else but then thought better of it. Words wouldn't change anything. I had work the next day and damn it, I wasn't going to screw up my teetering hold on a somewhat normal kind of life for a thankless drunken ass kicking had served Johnny right. I stood up and tossed some notes on the bar and walked out without looking back, even though I still had a bad feeling. I couldn't quite shake it. You'll remember earlier I said I'd save my soul for another day when I didn't sanction Billy's killer. Little did I know this would be the day. You see, I didn't end up calling the cops. After I left, I thought about it but then decided that nah, there's two of Johnny and Bernard, one of them being enough for one piece to help the other one out after their thumb pins, and, like I said, it served them right well. Came to find out the next day that I'd been dead on about the ass. Kicking didn't stop with a beating, though the papers said it was a beer bottle across the head that finally killed Johnny, but he'd also been stabbed a dozen times. So who knows, I went into a bit of a depression for a while after fell off the wagon for a bit, almost lost my security job, though somehow I didn't skip the funeral, didn't want to face Jack, he never called me, don't know if he ever found out I was there, so what's my point? We tend to think of the devil as some red-faced horn sob, and after all I've seen, I'll admit the possibility that something like that maybe even exists, but that's the capital D darkness, the one anyone will stand up to fight against. In strict definition, Satan is just an adversary, something you struggle against. What if instead of down in the land of hellfire and brimstone, the devil lives inside every single one of us? What if he's just a little voice telling you to do things that might even make sense but that you know in your gut are just plain wrong? How would we know to fight? How would we know we haven't already lost to the more terrifying creepypasta horror stories? Check out the playlist. So guys, the video has ended now. If you like our stories and want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to Audible Odyssey channel and do all these things, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Enjoy horror and adventure stories like this. So just subscribe to Audible Odyssey. Bye bye.